you later. The Nats have won it.
One of the great calls around baseball, and the man who made that call and many, many more over a long, long career. Washington Nationals broadcaster Bob Carpenter is joining us on the roundtable. Shannon Drayer joined by Rick Rizzs and Bob down in the front row with us today. So good to have you in Seattle.
Shannon, thank you for that nice intro. That was in September of 19, and we were on our way to the World Series. Yeah. 7 runs in the 9th inning to beat the Mets. Rick knows this. Seattle is very special to me because up until about 6 months ago, my daughter, her husband, and our 2 little grandsons lived up in Ballard.
Oh.
So both of my grandsons are born here. And for a career move, they're back in Oklahoma where I live full time. But Seattle is such a unique place and holds a lot of special memories to me. And my wife and I have done a lot of flying back and forth between SeaTac and TUL for the last 10 years.
Well, it's great that you have family here. I love talking history with guys like yourself that have been around the game for such a long time, and you have how many years? 20 years with the Nationals.
20 years with the Nats. This is year 42 in the big leagues.
Yeah, amazing.
I'm just right behind you.
Yeah. Jack Brickhouse was my hero growing up. On
Jack
the
Buck
side.
for me.
Yeah. How did you get started in this wonderful business?
Well, I wanted to be the next great left fielder for the Cardinals, and at 5'10", 145 pounds, I kind of knew that wasn't going to happen coming out of high school. But my sister Judy, who would go on to work for the Cardinals for 52 years as their director of baseball administration. She got that job when I was 14 years old. So I caught the bug. In fact, now she retired in 19, and she and I have 94 years of Major League Baseball between us. I don't know of any other brother-sister combo that ever had something like that, and so that's been pretty unique. But Rick, that's when I really caught the bug. And I was ushering at the ballpark in St. Louis when I was 16 years old, announcing the games to myself up on the ramp in center field because I'd peek around the scoreboard and see what was going on. So that's kind of when it all started for
Bob,
me.
You're touching me in the heart here. I'm from Central Illinois, so I grew up listening to Cubs and Cardinals on the radio. What are your memories early? What did you listen to when you were coming up and decided you wanted to do this?
Well, my mom and dad are from Collinsville, Illinois, 10 miles east of the Arch. And, my first memories of the Cardinals was Stan Musial. I was 10 years old when Stan retired. So I got to see him play in person, one of my great heroes. And then the following year, after he retired, they won the World Series. They beat the Yankees in 7 games in 64. And then the 67 team won the whole thing, 68, upset by the Tigers. Those are the formative years when you're a little guy. And my wife does not understand how I can name the lineup from all 3 of those World Series teams, but I can't remember to take out the trash. So
selective memory.
But you know what that's like, Rick.
Yeah,
I mean, you grew up
do.
in Chicago, great baseball town. So, Shannon, that's when it really happened for me back. My team, I'm 10 years old, then 11. They go to the World Series 3 of the next 4 years. So that was pretty cool. And that's when it all kind of started, jumbling around in my mind up there.
I worked with one of the greatest announcers in the history of the game of baseball for 25 years. Dave Niehaus sat in the chair where you're sitting right now, and I learned so much from Mr. Niehaus. His statue is out there in right center field, street named after him.
That's a nice sport coat hanging out in the hallway,
That's
too.
David's electric blue sport coat, white shoes, child of the 40s and 50s.
Sure.
But, what was the best advice you ever got from somebody that you worked with down through the years about doing this job the way that we do it?
Well, my first big league game was opening day in 1984. The Cardinals were at Dodger Stadium. So I've got Vince Scully sitting 6 feet to the right of me on the other side of the wall, and 10 feet on the other side is Jack Buck on radio with the Cardinals.
My goodness.
And I remember talking to both of them, and I think the thing I took away from them is they said, hey, if you weren't talented, you wouldn't already be here. You've got the job. Now do the best you can, but be yourself. And I think one of the great compliments I get from people when I meet them is they say, in person, you sound exactly like you do on the air. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you want to connect with people. You want to have, that gratitude that they're letting you into their home every night, be it radio or TV. And I've done both, mostly TV. But I think when people say that to me, that makes me feel good because you're not putting on any airs. You're not trying to be anything different or anybody different. than who you really are.
Then Scully told me, never start a story with 2 outs. Great advice.
Oh, I've had many producers say to me, "Why did you start that story with 2 outs?"
2 outs, yeah.
How do you watch the game? What do you look for, and what do you want to give to the audience?
Well, I like to look around and see what the fielders are doing. Sometimes I'm kind of obsessed with the way they're playing certain hitters and all that. Like this young man, James Wood, that we have. Nobody knows where to play him because he's hit about a third of his homers to the opposite field. You saw what he did to dead center the other night, and then he pulled one last night. And this looks like we're on to something special with this young man. But I really like to see what else is going on other than the pitcher and catcher. So I'm constantly looking around. I think TV affords you that a little bit. My partner, Kevin Franzen, is big into analytics. He's got facts, info, and numbers for everything. That affords me a little more time to be an observer. And, I grew up listening to Jack Buck. Jack was the master of the understated play-by-play. When he signed off every night, you were disappointed because he left you wanting more. He never wore you out, and I've tried to pattern myself after that. A professor I had at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, where I got my broadcasting degree, once used the term economy of words. And I've tried to keep that in my mind for a lot of years. So I'm looking at all those little things going on because every pitch in baseball is a unique experience. You never know where that ball's going. There's a million different places on that turf where that ball can land out there, and I think that's what fascinates me about the game.
Exactly. A lot of people don't realize it, but, I've got my scorebook. Everybody has their scorebook, their version of what works for them. But there's the Bob Carpenter Scorebook. Can you tell us the genesis of that and how it got started?
Well, I did my first couple of months in the big leagues out of a softball scorebook I found at Buck Sporting Goods in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We were on the road in 1984, and I went into Whitey Herzog's office before a game. I said, "Hey, Whitey, if you don't mind, can I have a couple of your lineup cards there? I'm trying to figure out what to do about keeping score." And he gave me a couple of those. And if you've seen my book, at the bottom of the page, it has the bench guys, it's got the pitchers, it's got a box for the bullpen guys. So late in the game, you can kind of look at those and mix and match who's going to face who. And I patterned it after that card. So, Rick, I'd show up at a ballpark with my little thing I had printed up at Jiffy Print down the street, and somebody would say, "Where'd you get that book?" And I'd tear out a page and say, "Here, take it to your local printer." That was in 84 when I designed that book. And so in 95, we decided to market it. We made a brochure. We sent it out, that brochure, to all the teams in the Baseball America directory. I think we sold 40 books that first year. The next year, we sold 100. Now we're selling about 2,000 to 2,500 a year. There's a bigger book for broadcasters that's the size of your book here. And then I designed a smaller one for fans that they could actually bring to the ballpark, because when Mark McGwire showed up in St. Louis, and I was there in 97 at the trading deadline, fans were saying to me, "We want to keep score, but your book's too big." So during that offseason, before the 98 season, I designed what I called the fan scorebook. And of course, that year Mark went on to hit 70 home runs, and he and Sammy Sosa had the great race. So it's been kind of an organic thing. We've never really advertised it. It's word of mouth. And probably half the guys in the big leagues are using it now. And I don't know, 3 or 4 dozen guys in the minor leagues, and ladies, I got to say that too. Because, I get calls from young announcers all over the country once we, kind of get acquainted with the book. And it's enabled me to kind of do something for the game, I think, to keep that thing alive, scoring baseball games. And it's also helped me to be a bit of a mentor to some of the young announcers.
And you put your scorecards on social media, which is a wonderful thing, that, before and after the games. I don't know how I feel about the win a series that you have on today's entry. We'll allow that, but so much to learn from looking at a scorebook. What do you think of Rick? How's he set up over there?
Well, his compared to our radio guys who do chicken scratch, this is really neat and tidy over here, Rick.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah,
I go for tidy.
That's a good-looking book.
Thank you.
But somebody suggested to me, I didn't get on Twitter till 2017, and somebody said you should post your book after the game. I'm like, why? And they said, well, fans might want to look at that.
Sure.
And we had a winning team at that point. From 11 through 19, we had a really good run of really good Nationals teams. So fans were interested in the way the team was playing. And now I hear from fans that said, I'm picking up scoring games because of you. And now I like to go to Twitter after the game, see how you scored it, compare that to my book. And it's turned into kind of a fun little exchange between myself and our fans.
Talk about fun, 2019. The Expos moved to Washington, and what a year for your ball club. Man, you had a lot of stars on that club, and you win it all. You had a young player by the name of Juan Soto.
Oh, yeah?
What was it like winning a World Series for the Washington Nationals?
Well, I had one ring from 2004 with the Cardinals, but they got swept by the Red Sox. So the ring said National League champions.
Yeah.
So I got a ring from my boyhood team, and then I got a World Championship ring from my broadcast team, the Nationals. That was really cool. But that was a great team. Steven Strasburg, Max Scherzer, Patrick Corbin, Sean Doolittle, who's now on our staff helping out the pitchers. He was one of our really good relievers on that team. Anthony Rendon, Ryan Zimmerman, Juan Soto. Juan came out of nowhere the year before that. We suddenly found out a lot about him in a short period of time. But that team had a special chemistry. A guy you guys know from the American League, Brian Dozier, who was with the Twins for a number of years, he came over and really kind of gave us a clubhouse spark. But you know what's interesting about that team? We had won 4 division titles and never gotten out of the first round. Well, this time we go in as the wild card, and a bad bounce single by Juan Soto in the wild card game against Milwaukee turns into a bases clearing double, and we go on to win that game. We upset the Dodgers in the division series, swept the Cardinals in the LCS. We were not the favorite in any of those series, and we weren't favored against the Astros either. And what we later found out about Houston, with all that stuff they had going on, a lot of people feel like the Nationals did baseball and maybe even saved some fandom by beating them in that World Series, because in the next year or two, things got really ugly for them. And that was a memorable year. You guys on radio get to call those postseason games. Us TV guys don't get to do those. But it was a memorable run to the World Series and a great, great thing for Washington, D.C.
Oh, Bob, I'm glad you've had such memories and such good things. Congratulations on this is your final season right now.
Going to hang it up in October.
Oh, well, we wish you all the best. I wish we had more time. We could talk forever.
Oh, the three of us, we could do an hour.
Do a podcast.
This is the first time I've ever been on the air with my old friend here of 4 decades, Rick. And Shannon, so nice to make your acquaintance, and thank you so much for having me on.
Well, it's so great to have you here. Thank you. That is Bob Carpenter, and please, if you're on social media, check out the scorecards on Scorebook_Bob. Coming up next, it is time for the Mariners Clubhouse Insider, a conversation with Jackson Coar. That as the pregame show continues.